They liked my hair. I did like the 70s thing because I thought it was really cool. But my name is Steven Henderson. I go to Full Sail right now, about to graduate September. And I grew up in Los Angeles. So I'm not new to the Florida area. I've been living out here for a couple years now. Everything Mr. Ramos has said today has been awesome. And I mean, I can just repeat everything, because everything everybody said it's been so true about even the audience, what you guys have said. I mean, it's awesome to see you guys here that really care and want to make a difference and change. Where did I start at? Well, I was at home. Yeah, I grew up at home. And my mother and father, they always had marital problems. So for me, that's one of the things that was kind of negative. They argued a lot, and then they worked a lot, trying to make ends meet. So with them working so much, my father would come home and still work. And then he'd be gone all day, and he'd still work. And my mother, she would work, but then she would come home and do all kinds of motherly stuff. So there was really nobody to, I guess, interact with me. And there was also a time gap between the time they came home that I was home alone and didn't have anything to do. There wasn't that many community centers. There wasn't that many people that you can go to, or there's nothing to do. You're just sitting around. So I found gangs because my father was so busy, and most of my time was spent really out in the streets. And that's when I found all these nice people who said they can do all these good things. You know, and when you talk about gangs, it's just like a family. They're so successful because they're able to supply what you don't have, which is a family. You know, and there's no role models anywhere outside. And you talk about the community. Who do you go to in the community, or who do you look up to in the community that you can say is somebody that you should follow? There was nobody there. At home, there was nobody there. You know, my father was a father when it was time to get whoopings. And that was it. You know, otherwise he was so busy trying to work. There's a lot of empty promises he made about, we didn't do the father-son camping thing. We brought fishing poles and they stayed in the garage, so we didn't go fishing. So he was just so busy he didn't have time to interact with me. And I guess it's one of the big things I was missing. So when I went out in the streets, they had everything. Interaction was there. You know, I was like a celebrity. It was like, hey, come on over here, you know, come on in. And that's how I think it all gets started, and that's how things with all gangs get started. The children just need somewhere to go. They need something to do. And a lot of parents, they don't take time to be interactive with their children enough because their goals or their focus is so different. You know, we're trying to survive because of the way we are today. Two parents have to work in order to make ends meet. And in that survival, the children are neglected. And in that neglect, when they go outside, the gangbangers are there. And that's how they feel, you know, because the gangbangers will listen to you. And they'll buy you toys, you know, and they'll feed you. So every physical need you think that you have is being met outside of your own household. So it's hard to compete with, you know. And then from that level, once you get into the gangs and you feel like your family, like when I was in gangs, I didn't love my family. I felt like my family was my enemy, and outside was my real family. So when I would go home to my father, I'd feel like he was an enemy, you know, and my mother and everybody else in my household. It's like, you guys aren't my family. I hate being here, you know, and that's how it felt. So the roles were reversed for me. It's like the streets became my family, what I love to do. And when I came home, I just hated being home. So then that resorted to me being in the streets more and more and more. That's where I had all the fun at. That's where I enjoyed everything at. A lot of the youth, which I hear everybody talking about, which is so cool, they get into situations where they didn't select to be this way. I think that I heard we have a major problem, a conflict with, we talked about gangs and police. And our reason is because I think some of the police, not all the police, but some look at the individual and say, there's no hope for you. Or you're just like those people are. And no one takes the time to try to find out what's really going on. And so the young person is being labeled already, and they're being thrown into a category when they grew up and that's all they see around them. We have a media that promotes the gang life as a culture. We have video games that promote this lifestyle. We have music, so all these different things are influencing the youth. And who's changing it? Who's doing something about it? We talk about social workers, and you guys are awesome. You guys rock. I didn't really know how great you guys were, but you are what is missing for us, for the youth and for the future of gangs, because somebody has to care enough to go out there and do something. America's mentality is, it's not my problem if it's not coming to my door. And so we turn away from the issue, and then you look back at the issue and it is at your door. And now it's too late. You can't really do that much about it now. So there is a way to get out of these things, but we need role models. We need people who really care, to go in there and talk to the youth and to be able to get them out. Because like Mr. Ramos said before, nobody got into gangs. I didn't get into gangs saying I want to be a gangbanger. That's something I grew up into, saying, hey, I want to do this. This is fun. But because of everything I was missing at home, they was able to provide that for me. And that's how I got romanticized with going with gangs and becoming a gang member. And once you're in a gang, it's just, everything's everything, Whatever you have to do now to please, like at home, you would please your dad, bringing home report cards, A's, or your mom, bake a cake or something, wash the dishes, and it would make them happy. So the family role has been swapped. So in the gang, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to please those individuals in the gang that are above you to make them happy, and you want to fit in, you want to be well liked, and you want to be taken care of. So the whole thing is just being able to be taken care of. In Los Angeles, I was a member of 4 gangs, and they are organized. Some of them are, like military structure organized. And then some of them, they just aren't organized. They just, walk around and have no goals and no ambitions about anything. So I was in a couple of them, and they all work very different. And it's like a family. That's the main thing I can tell you guys, I was fortunate. I didn't do a lot of bad stuff. And a lot of the times where they were doing really bad stuff, I wasn't there. I was somewhere else. And that's really good for me, because I don't have to worry about that stuff. I never got, back when I was in gangs, the tattoo thing was like, you couldn't just go get one. You had to earn it. And you had to do some very bad stuff to earn it. So I don't have any tattoos. Nowadays it's like, hey, everybody will get a tattoo. It's free, and people are getting these designs and don't even understand the gang implications that they're putting on their body by wearing these things. They have no clue or no idea. So that's very cool. Being in the streets out there, again, for one, I got involved. Another reason I got involved with gangs is because they were hazing at high schools and stuff. They want to get beat up. You go to junior high to high school, and hey, they're going to beat you up because you're a junior. So I had a friend, I was in a gang, and he invited me into the gang. He said, we're going to protect you. So, all these things that come with it. If you're not popular, when you become in a gang, you're popular, especially at school. You're respected, you're feared, So somebody who used to being in a corner all their lives and not having anything, or being put down, or even at home, now the role changes, because it's like an empowerment type deal. Now you have everything that you want or desire, you think you need. And now it creates a boldness in you to go out there further and to do these things. But by becoming a part of that, I was protected. Let's say I'm just a regular person, there's a gang picking on me. Well, where do I go? Well, this gang says that if I join them, that gang won't pick with me anymore. So if I've been used to being picked on gangs, if I join you guys, okay, protection. So there's a number of reasons, but I think the main reason that a lot of people join gangs and get involved in gangs is because, number one, the love in the household. The households are broken, and there's not a lot of people going to try to check it out. I look at the Florida area, and we talk about the areas like Pine Hills and stuff where all this stuff is going on, and there's no interaction there. It's just like they're over there and they'll work it out or they'll fix it, And as a whole, there's not anybody, I guess, and you guys might have, so don't, don't say I'm talking bad about you. But the people we're the people that's going in there. Again, as a youth, I didn't have a role model. Besides Spider-Man and Batman and people like that, I had a little underwear. But when you go as a youth and you look to who you're supposed to be seeing, who you're supposed to pattern your life after, then where are they? Again, in the household, it's not there. And you talk about the community. Why can't you find anybody in the community who's patterning their life in a righteous way, you know, who is still kind of morally right, you know, who cares about the morals of today. And those people are so hard to find. If they are in existence, they're not where they can be seen. They're in their own homes, they're minding their own business. So it makes it really hard for that individual or that youth to go out there and see something positive. You know, as for me, the only black positive people I see are those getting handcuffs on. Because the news loves to show us with handcuffs on all the time, you know? Not all of us are like that, but every time you turn on the TV, I have a son, that's what he sees too. You know, he sees, hey, handcuffs, 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 handcuffs. So, you know, and in his mind, it's like, okay, this is acceptable. You know, this is something that's socially acceptable. This is something that I must need to endure or go through. And then, you know, we have the rappers, and they're no better. You know, you have to go to jail to to be somebody. You know, and I'm not a big fan of the culture. I'm sorry. I got saved, and I'm a Christian, so I'm not all into the gangster gospel rap. Not gangster rap. Gospel rap is good. Yeah. Okay. But and we did things in gangs in California, basic gang activity. You know, I drank before. I had a friend who used to get drunk a lot. You know, because that's the only way he knew how to express himself. You know, and again, the culture is telling us that this is what you're supposed to do. So get drunk, and he would go home and destroy his tables and destroy his house. And his parents didn't really want him doing that, so I started drinking to help him quit drinking, you know. I know it sounds real crazy, right? Like, yeah, okay, tell us another. But I started drinking to help him stop drinking, and that's how I got involved with liquor. But liquor didn't do anything for me personally, so I was like, man, this stuff sucks, you know. So I just quit drinking. And I got to smoking the weed and stuff, and it didn't do anything for me. So I didn't get no higher buzz, but I'm really dumb at math now, so I think it did have an effect later on in life. But at the time, it just, you know, it didn't do anything. And the drugs, I never got into the drugs. They used to sell the drugs a lot, you know, on the corners and stuff. It's a quick way to generate income, you know, the quickest way to generate income. So, and how can you tell me not to do it when I'm making more money than parents are, working regular jobs, you know, and say, hey, I got rent right here, you don't have to worry about that. So it's really easy to be accessed to as well. They talked about out here, you don't see a lot of gang members on the streets, and it's true. They are like in the houses and stuff now. And they are more, you know, withdrawn, so to say. But they're still busy, and they're still doing a lot of stuff, you know, so don't think they're not there. And I don't know, have I talked enough? What have I done? I've stole stuff. Did I tell you I stole stuff? Where's that law enforcement guy at? Is he in here? Okay, guy or girl, okay. But yeah, we used to steal stuff, and we used to go to the stores, and it would take 2 or 3 people to the stores, and you would get what you wanted out of the store. And so you would have one guy go to the counter and lay it on the counter as if he's going to buy it, and the cash register rings it up, and the other guys just run out. And that's how we ate. So it's pretty cool. And one day I got chased, you know, and that wasn't very cool at all. But I didn't get caught. But most of the kids that are in the situations they're in, they don't have a lot. You know, they really don't. And then you see everybody else who does have a lot. So how do you get a lot or a piece of a lot, you know? And that's why you start looking at these different ways and functions that are illegal to try to obtain what you need or what you want, because it's not being provided for you. And then again, the gangs they give you all this stuff. They give you everything. So if I have a father, like me and my father used to fight a lot. That's all we did was fight. The last time before I left, we had a fist fight in the house. And it's hard, you know. And when we had a fist fight, I ran out the window and I ran down the street, and I ended up going on the freeway on where oncoming cars were at, and I ended up walking down the freeway. And I'm still here, so that's really cool, right? Walked on the freeway, and I went to my gang friends. That was my first stop. And they said, hey, we know where your dad is, and we have guns and this and that. We can go kill your dad. He has a lot of money, this and that. We can go ahead and kill him. And, you know, had I been, I guess, more mad, then I could have killed my father. And he wouldn't have had no idea, you know, what happened. And my parents didn't really know, per se, how active I was in gangs. I just went outside and played. And I came back looking like the same kid that left the house. Now when I went out, I changed clothes and did whatever else I did. But they weren't involved enough to know, So I talked to them today, they're like, what, really? You were in gangs and stuff? I'm like, yeah, all this time. That's where a lot of kids are, because we don't take interest in our children, We let them go play, let them run around, but there's not enough interactiveness. I was missing in my home. I didn't have a role model to follow. I didn't have anybody to be interactive with. My father's always working. He comes home, he's on the computer. There's no father-son time at all, Me and my mom argued, me and my dad argued, and then I went to the street life, so stole cars and all that fun stuff. It was well, not fun anymore. But it's a lot of stuff that you did out there and that you do. Yes, sir.
Stephen, we really appreciate you being here and sharing your comments. I'm going to ask you an obvious question that you maybe were going to get to, and that is, what changed? What helped you turn the corner?
Jesus. What changed for me is that I had, the last gang I was in was the Black Gangster Disciples. And I can still throw up a little pretty pitchfork stuff. It's like once you learn this stuff, it stays. But I was in that gang. It was in Inglewood, Los Angeles, and they actually had a plan to take over the city. So they had maps and stuff, and they had gun shipments coming in, and they were going to do a whole lot of big stuff. And what ended up happening is they were so involved in these different crimes and stuff that a lot of them started dying off or getting murdered. I had a lot of friends get murdered, and I had a lot of friends just like get arrested. And so the gang started like decreasing. And it's not fun when the gang is getting smaller and you're one of the gang members and you have rival gangs that's out there, It's like, oh my gosh, we haven't told my backup, So, but at that time also, looking at my father, having issues with my father and my mother. And for me, it wasn't promoting what it used to promote, the gang life. I started looking at my life at a young age and trying to figure out what I accomplished and what did I have that was tangible that I can hold on to. I didn't have anything. So I spent all this time and all this investment and all these years in this activity, and I didn't have anything to show for it. So for me, it started just getting boring, I guess you can say. And then I moved out of the neighborhood into another, because my parents were divorced, my mother moved. And I moved with her. And I ended up getting away from that lifestyle. And during that time, really allowed me to look at I was still being bad and still, like the single lone gangbanger out wherever I was, from back over there. But during that time, you have to, you analyze your life and say, man, and people come into your life and they say the same things to you. They say, what do you have? What can you show for yourself? And when you get people to thinking like that, and they actually look at themselves and say, wow, I don't have anything, And then you look at the road, if you do have something, what is it really going to cost you in the long run? Which is jail time, which is murder, eventually. Because in that lifestyle, you don't know, your friend could kill you, or you can go down a street that you don't know and get killed, or you can go to prison, and it's a whole lot of different rough scenarios. So all that played a factor for me. And then I went to the military. I got into the Army. And I was still gangbanging in the Army. Yeah. The armed services are good, but they have gang problems as well. So as soon as I joined the Army, I met more gangbangers. And we just terrorized our first couple months in the Army. And, but eventually, I had to restart the Army. Oh, that was so bad. They started me all over from scratch and separated me from my gang friends again. And then I went to places like Korea and to Germany and Iraq and Afghanistan and all these places you're alone. You're really alone. You're isolated alone. So got into church and God, and now I'm a happy camper. Yes, sir.
Being a Full Sail student, have you ever been given a conflict of interest assignment where you've been assigned to cover a certain rap style song or make a certain film in a certain way that would conflict with your current beliefs over the former life you led?
Wait, I'm sorry. Before you answer that, can you explain Full Sail to the audience?
Yeah, Full Sail is the school at the other end of the street, the university. And they're a school that specializes in digital arts and animation, film, music, and something else. There you go, game development. And the program I'm in is film. So I decided to go to Full Sail to make movies because I used to always be able to write pretty well. And I decided that movies would be really good. And as far as your question, the way the curriculum kind of works is that to make a movie, you need a lot of people involved with it. And I'm not always in charge of picking the type of movie I want to make. And so I have been in positions where they have conflict with my interests, so to say. But the only thing I can do is just try to do my part the best I can and try to get through it. But I mean, I don't think that anybody still understands, because you know the way the culture is today, it's just all the cursing music, the curse rap music, 24/7. They play it over and over and over again till you like the song. You know, it can be mindless, but you know, you heard it so many times, you just like, oh my gosh, this is great. And what we see on the media, as far as the television goes, this stuff is just pumped into you continually. You know, I think with America, we numb ourselves to it. The news shows violence so much, you're just numb to violence. You know, it doesn't affect you as much anymore. All the curse words and different things that you encounter and see through the media, through the radio, you just become numb, and our children become numb. So when our children are growing up young and they experience this stuff, it doesn't faze them as it should. A regular person might jump and say, whoa, what is that? But our children are so used to it. And parents are not monitoring the children's TV. TV in your room, go watch TV. Have a TV as a babysitter. You don't know what they're watching. Internet, you don't know what's on the internet. But yeah, I have had assignments where I've had to do that. Did I answer your question okay?
Yeah, fine.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right. Yes, ma'am.
Talk about how you were in 4 gangs.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like you would quit one to join another, or how did that affect your alliance?
Yeah, 2 of them were small, and so really, we just like ran around street corners. One of them was the name of a street. It's called Eucalyptus Block. So it tells you how big a gang it was, right? So we ran that street, though. We ran that street. But, you know, and those are like, they're on levels. So 2 of them were really, really small, and they ended up dying out. The last one was Black Gangster Disciples. It's a really, really large gang. And that one, I just, you know, through my movements and travels through the military and all stuff like that, and everybody else dying, I kind of quit. It didn't tell nobody. And the other gang, which was Hoover, it's sort of like Hoover Crip, and they don't care. They're really strange. Yeah, they don't care about much of anything. So, and sometimes you just, you know, like in Los Angeles especially, the gangs are undercover. Like if I was a Blood, I would wear blue. And I would go to you and I'd be like, what's up, Blood? And if you responded like a Crip, then I would just beat you down. And we saw it. You know, like Inglewood High School was here and the city hall's across the street, and we saw it. And it kept happening. There would be like, you go to high school, there'd be drive-bys. Like the Crip gang would come and do drive-bys when the school let out. So, I mean, it was major problems there, but I was in 4 because, you know, the 2 of them were small. They died out. One of them was very large, but in cities like Los Angeles and Inglewood, the gangs are really spread out. So you can be in 1 or 2, and they're not together or in the same exact proximity, so they probably wouldn't know the difference. Yes, ma'am.
What do you think you would do, or how do you think you will teach your son not to go down that path? Like, what would you do different than your parents?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously more kind, more focused on him. But do you have a game plan to avoid him going down that path?
I'm gonna beat him. Beat him good. Yeah. They start saying discipline is bad for kids. When I was growing up, man, I used to, wow. But I do. It starts with interaction. You know, any child needs attention. And if you don't give it to them, they're gonna go somewhere and get it. So I give my son a lot of attention. And like I kiss on him, like a lot, you know. And most, like one gang member I knew, his father told him, as a man, you don't kiss another man. And so when he saw a gang member do it, that made him want to become a gang member, just because they kissed and greeted. You know, I mean, it's simple stuff, you know. But first of all, is to spend a lot of time with my son. And then, you know, as he grows older, you have to talk to him about what this stuff is and what the results are, you know, because you can't be with your child all day long. So you talk to him and just, I mean, the only thing that really affected me, my dad just wasn't there in my life. He wasn't present. you know? So as much as I can have my son by my side, he's there. And I have him understand, hey, this is what daddy went through. And this is what's out there, you know? And we can even go and walk the streets, you know? Hey, look, see? Don't point, but be like, you know, hey, look over there, you know? This is what's going on out here, you know? I don't want you to become a part of this. I mean, my father did do one thing when I was younger, and he took me down to Skid Row in Los Angeles, and he showed us all the homeless people out in Skid Row. And he didn't do it really good, though, because it was, I guess it was a motivational type thing to try to get us to understand that this is where we could end up. But I have somewhat of a game plan, yeah. And I stay with Mr. Ramos and send my kid to him and all these other lovely people that's here to get an understanding. But I mean, that's pretty much what I have so far.
Get you over here to be a social work major, that's what I want. Any other questions?
How old is your son?
Oh, man. 3. I have to count. He's 3. He just had a birthday in January 30th. His name is Christopher, and he's like a little mini me. So he beats me up like all day. Man, I have headaches. He's really a tough kid. But I mean, that's what's needed though, really, out of everything. I appreciate social workers, I do, because especially here in Florida, you guys are doing the awesome work. And the law enforcement, you know, and the law enforcement too, you know. Because we look at things and, you know, everybody talks so negative about so many different things. But everything, even with the gangs, even with the kids you deal with, there's a positive and negative side to all of it. And you can't be so much judgmental, but you gotta know the individual, the person, the situation, and then you can fix the problem. Because a lot of kids want the problem to be fixed. They just have nowhere to go. And nobody's coming in to help them fix the problem. So therefore, they stay in their surroundings, and that's all they have to learn from. That's all they have to grasp from, is what they see around them every day. And again, there's no positive role models where they are. All they have is, you know, my daddy was a gangbanger, or my uncle's a gangbanger, and this is how they're upraising me. So I don't know any better. And then the kid goes to jail for some crime, gets a big strike, a felony or something, and, you know, he doesn't really know what's going on. But before you know it, he has a life sentence or something somewhere. And it's all over. So it is serious, and you guys are doing a very important work. And if I had more social workers like you and communities and different places I can go where I can do things as a kid, and somebody told me that I don't have to get involved with gangs. You know, there's a positive way of doing things. There's alternate ways of doing things. Then I wouldn't have to go down the road that I had to go down. You know, and my father was, again, so busy, he didn't say much of anything about it.